The rain and the rescue. The downpour. Maya Rodriguez pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders as the rain intensified from a drizzle to a full downpour. The Seattle evening had turned treacherous within minutes, and she cursed herself for leaving her umbrella at the design studio. Again. Her laptop bag bounced against her hip as she quickened her pace along the slick downtown sidewalk. The presentation files inside represented 3 weeks of sleepless nights, and she needed them for tomorrow morning's meeting with the biggest client her small graphic design firm had ever landed. Neon signs from nearby. Restaurants and shops cast colorful reflections across the wet pavement, turning the ordinary street into an abstract painting of light and shadow. Maya navigated around other pedestrians huddled under umbrellas, her sneakers squelching with each step. The rain plastered her dark hair against her face, and she pushed it back impatiently. Just 3 more blocks to the parking garage. 3 more blocks, and she could collapse into her car and blast the heater. A horn blared somewhere in the traffic-clogged street. Maya glanced toward the sound, momentarily distracted. Her foot landed on a slick patch of pavement near a storefront, and suddenly the world tilted sideways. Time seemed to slow as her arms windmilled, her laptop bag flying outward. The ground rushed up to meet her, and Maya's mind flashed with panic about her laptop. Her presentation, tomorrow's meeting, everything crashing down with her. But the impact never came. The catch-strong arms caught her mid-fall, wrapping securely around her waist and pulling her upright against a solid chest. Maya gasped, her heart hammering as she found her footing. The arms steadied her for a moment longer before loosening their grip, though they didn't release her completely. She looked up, rainwater streaming down her face, and found herself staring into the most striking gray eyes she had ever seen. The man who caught her was tall, with dark hair plastered to his forehead from the rain. He wore an expensive-looking charcoal suit that was now thoroughly soaked, and his white dress shirt clung to broad shoulders. But it was his expression that stopped her breath. Concern, certainly, but also something else. A flicker of recognition, though they had never met. A spark of interest that mirrored the strange flutter in her own chest. "Are you all right?" His voice was deep and warm, cutting through the sound of rain drumming on awnings and car roofs. His hands remained at her waist, steadying her on the treacherous pavement. Maya nodded, finding her voice. "I'm okay. Thank you. I don't know what happened. I just slipped and—" She trailed off, suddenly aware of how close they were standing, how his hands felt through the wet fabric of her jacket, how he smelled like cedar and rain and something uniquely masculine that made her want to lean closer instead of pulling away. "The sidewalk's a skating rink tonight," he said, his lips curving into a gentle smile. "I saw you from across the street and started running when you started to fall. Barely made it in time." He glanced down at her laptop bag, which had somehow remained attached to her shoulder through the near disaster. "Important stuff in there?" "My entire career, basically," Maya admitted with a shaky laugh. 3 weeks of work for a presentation tomorrow. "If that laptop had hit the ground—" She shuddered, and his arms tightened protectively around her for just a moment before he seemed to catch himself. "Then I'm glad I was in the right place at the right time," he said softly. The rain continued to pour around them, but neither seemed in a hurry to move. Pedestrians flowed past, some shooting curious glances at the couple standing motionless in the downpour, shelter from the storm. "Listen," the man said, finally releasing her waist but keeping one hand lightly on her elbow. "There's a coffee shop right here. Why don't we get out of this rain for a minute? Make sure you're really okay. No twisted ankle or anything?" Maya knew she should refuse. He was a stranger, and she had a million things to do tonight before tomorrow's presentation. But something about his eyes, about the genuine concern in his voice, made her nod. "Coffee sounds amazing, actually." He guided her carefully toward the entrance of a small cafe she passed every day but had never entered. The bell above the door chimed as they stepped inside, bringing with them a gust of cool, rain-scented air. The warmth of the interior enveloped them immediately, along with the rich aroma of fresh-brewed coffee and baked goods. They must have made quite a sight, both dripping puddles onto the worn hardwood floor. The barista, a young woman with bright purple hair, looked up from the espresso machine and grinned. "Rough night out there, huh?" "You could say that," the man replied. returning her smile. He turned to Maya. What would you like? My treat. It's the least I can do after tackling you on the sidewalk. You didn't tackle me. You saved me, Maya corrected, surprising herself with the warmth in her voice. But I'll take a large cappuccino if you're offering. Make it 2, he told the barista, then guided Maya to a corner table near the window. The cafe was nearly empty, just a few students with laptops scattered at other tables. The rain streaked down the glass beside them, creating a cocoon of intimacy in their little corner. First connections as they sat down, Maya suddenly laughed. I just realized I don't even know your name. I'm Maya. Maya Rodriguez. Ethan Cole, he replied, extending his hand across the table. His grip was firm and warm, and he held her hand perhaps a moment longer than necessary. It's nice to meet you, Maya, even under soggy circumstances. Ethan, she repeated, liking the way it sounded. What were you doing out in this deluge? You're dressed for somewhere much nicer than a rainy Seattle sidewalk. He glanced down at his ruined suit with a rueful expression. Client dinner that ran late. I'm an architect. We were discussing a new residential project downtown, and my client is very particular about his steakhouse preferences. The dinner went well, but I don't think this suit will ever recover. I'm so sorry, Maya said, genuine regret coloring her voice. That looks expensive, and it's ruined because of me. Worth it, Ethan said simply, his gray eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Some things are worth getting wet for. The barista brought their cappuccinos, the foam art swirled into perfect hearts. Maya wrapped her cold hands around the warm mug, grateful for the heat seeping into her fingers. She took a sip and sighed with contentment. So, graphic designer? Ethan asked, nodding toward her laptop bag. You mentioned a presentation. How did you know? Maya blinked in surprise. He smiled. You said your entire career was in that bag. The way you're protecting it, the ink stains on your fingers, the creative but practical way you've organized your bag straps. Plus, I work with designers all the time. You have that look. What look? Maya asked, both amused and intrigued. The look of someone who sees the world differently, who notices the way light hits surfaces, the balance of colors in a storefront sign. Even soaking wet and shaken up, you've glanced around this cafe 3 times, and I can tell you're cataloging design elements. Unexpected recognition. Maya stared at him, startled by his perception. That's actually a little scary how accurate that is. Ethan laughed, a rich sound that made something warm bloom in her chest. Sorry, occupational hazard. I spend my life studying how people interact with spaces. You pick up on patterns. So what do you see when you look at me? The question came out more flirtatious than Maya intended, but she didn't regret it. There was something about Ethan that made her want to be bold, to lean into this unexpected connection. His gaze traveled over her face, thoughtful and appreciative without being invasive. I see someone who's running on caffeine and determination. Someone who cares deeply about her work, maybe too much. Someone who's scared about tomorrow but trying not to show it. He paused, his voice softening. Someone beautiful, even drenched in rain. Heat flooded Maya's cheeks despite the chill from her wet clothes. You're good at this. At what? Reading people. Saying the right thing. Making a terrible night feel less terrible. I'm just being honest, Ethan said. He took a sip of his cappuccino, leaving a tiny foam mustache that he wiped away self-consciously when Maya smiled. Tell me about your presentation. What's got you so worried? And somehow Maya found herself talking. She told him about her small design firm, about the months of pitching to larger clients, about this one opportunity that could change everything. She talked about her vision for the campaign, her fears about competing against bigger agencies, her hope that her fresh perspective would be enough. Ethan listened with complete attention, asking insightful questions, offering observations from his own experience with presentations and clients. His presence was calming, his interest genuine. Maya had never met someone so easy to talk to, so willing to truly listen rather than just wait for their turn to speak. Outside, the rain continued its steady percussion against the windows. Inside, something unexpected was beginning to bloom between 2 strangers who had collided in the most literal sense. Maya glanced at her watch and was shocked to discover they had been talking for 45 minutes. It had felt like 10. "I should probably go," she said reluctantly. "I still need to do a final run-through of the presentation tonight." "Of course," Ethan said, though disappointment flickered across his face. "But, Maya, before you go, can I say something?" She nodded, curious about the serious tone in his voice. "Your presentation is going to be amazing. Not because of the hours you've put in, though that matters, but because you care, because you see things others don't, because you're passionate and creative and brave enough to put your vision out there." He reached across the table and touched her hand lightly. "Don't let fear dim that light. They'd be fools not to see your brilliance." Maya felt tears prick her eyes, surprised by how much his words affected her. When was the last time someone had believed in her like this, had seen past her doubts to the potential underneath? "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." They stood together, gathering their things in a comfortable silence that spoke of understanding rather than awkwardness. At the door, they paused, neither quite ready to step back into the rain and go their separate ways. "Maya," Ethan said softly, "I know this is forward, but could I have your number? I'd like to know how the presentation goes. And maybe if you're willing, I'd like to take you to dinner. Somewhere dry." Maya smiled, her heart beating faster. "I'd like that." She recited her number, watching him enter it into his phone with careful precision. When lightning strikes twice. The morning after Maya stood in the conference room, her presentation displayed on the large screen behind her, and felt a strange calm settle over her shoulders. Last night's rain had cleared to reveal a brilliant Seattle morning, sunlight streaming through the windows and casting everything in gold. But it wasn't the weather that made her feel centered. It was the memory of gray eyes and an unexpected connection that had turned her worst evening into something remarkable. Miss Rodriguez, the lead client, a stern-looking woman named Patricia Blackwood, gestured for her to continue. "We're interested in seeing your vision for our brand reimagining." Maya took a breath and launched into her presentation. The words flowed naturally, her passion evident in every slide, every explanation of color theory and demographic targeting. She spoke about creating emotional connections, about designing experiences rather than just advertisements. And as she talked, she thought about Ethan's words from the night before. "Don't let fear dim that light." 40 minutes later, she fielded the final question and watched the clients exchange meaningful glances. Patricia Blackwood stood, extending her hand across the table with a rare smile. "Miss Rodriguez, that was exceptional. We'd like to move forward with your firm. When can you start?" Maya's heart soared. She maintained her professional composure through the handshakes and congratulations from her boss, but inside she was dancing. The moment the clients left, she pulled out her phone and found a text already waiting. "Ethan, good morning. How did the presentation go? Been thinking about you." Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed back. "Maya, we got the account." "I can't believe it." "Thank you for last night, for believing in me." His response came within seconds. "Ethan, I never doubted you for a moment. Congratulations, Maya. You earned this. Dinner tonight to celebrate? I insist." Maya bit her lip, smiling at her phone like a teenager. Her boss, Rachel, appeared beside her with a knowing grin. "Someone special?" "Maybe," Maya admitted, her cheeks warming. "Remember how I said I slipped in the rain last night? Well, someone caught me, and then we talked for hours in a coffee shop. And now? And now you have that glow," Rachel finished, her eyes twinkling. "Go celebrate, Maya. You've earned it. Take the afternoon off. We'll start on the campaign Monday." The second meeting, Maya spent the afternoon in a happy blur of phone calls to her family and a quick shopping trip for something to wear that evening. Ethan had texted her an address, promising it would be special. She chose a deep green dress that brought out the warmth in her brown eyes and made her feel confident, but not overdressed. The restaurant he had chosen was tucked away in a quieter part of downtown, the kind of place that looked unassuming from the outside but promised intimacy within. Maya arrived right on time to find Ethan already waiting outside, holding a single white rose. He looked different in casual clothes, more approachable but no less attractive. Dark jeans, a gray button-down that matched his eyes, and a leather jacket that suggested understated elegance. When he saw her, his face lit up with a smile that made her feel like the most important person in the world. "You look incredible," he said, offering her the rose. "Though I have to admit, you looked pretty incredible soaking wet, too." Maya laughed, accepting the flower and breathing in its delicate scent. "You clean up pretty well yourself. Much drier than last night." Inside, the restaurant was everything she could have hoped for. Dim lighting, candles on each table, and soft jazz playing in the background. The host led them to a corner table with a view of the city lights beginning to twinkle as dusk fell. "This place is beautiful," Maya said as Ethan held her chair. "How did you find it?" "I designed it," he admitted with a slight smile. "Well, I designed the renovation 2 years ago. The owners are friends. They agreed to save me the best table on short notice when I explained it was important." "Important?" Maya raised an eyebrow, her heart fluttering at the implication. Ethan met her gaze steadily. "Very important. It's not every day you meet someone who makes you believe in fate." Deeper waters, over appetizers and wine, they talked with the easy familiarity of old friends rather than new acquaintances. Ethan told her about growing up in Portland, about studying architecture at Berkeley, about the moment he first saw a building he had designed standing complete against the sky and felt his purpose snap into focus. Maya shared her own journey, from a childhood in Phoenix to art school in Los Angeles, to finally settling in Seattle 3 years ago to start her own design firm with 2 friends. She talked about the struggles of building something from nothing, the late nights and tight budgets, the slow climb toward recognition. "What made you take the leap?" Ethan asked, his fingers playing with the stem of his wine glass. "Starting your own firm is risky. I got tired of playing it safe," Maya said honestly. "I was working for a big agency, doing good work, but not my work. Everything was filtered through committees and client fear and market research. I wanted to create things that mattered, that meant something beyond just selling products." She paused, surprised by her own candor. "Does that sound naive?" "It sounds brave," Ethan said softly. "And it sounds exactly like the woman who impressed those clients this morning. You're not afraid to trust your vision." "I'm terrified most of the time," Maya admitted with a laugh. "But I've learned that being scared and being brave aren't opposites. Sometimes they're the same thing." Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "The gesture felt natural, right? I felt that way when I caught you last night. Terrified and brave at the same time." "What do you mean?" Maya's heart was beating faster now, her skin tingling where his thumb traced patterns on her palm. "I was terrified I wouldn't reach you in time, that you'd fall and get hurt. But I was also terrified of what I felt the moment I caught you." His gray eyes held hers with an intensity that made breathing difficult. "I don't believe in love at first sight. I'm an architect. I believe in foundations and structures and logical progression. But Maya, when you looked up at me in the rain, something shifted in my world. Something I can't quite explain but also can't deny." Maya's throat felt tight. "I felt it too. I tried to tell myself it was just gratitude, just adrenaline from the fall. But it wasn't. It was something more." Unexpected truths. The main course arrived, but neither of them was particularly hungry anymore. The air between them crackled with possibility, with the weight of admitting that what had started as a chance encounter might be something far more significant. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan said, his voice dropping to a more intimate tone. "Something I haven't told anyone else?" Maya nodded, sensing the shift to deeper territory. "I was supposed to get married last year," Ethan said quietly. "Had the venue booked, the invitations printed, everything planned. 2 weeks before the wedding, my fiancée told me she couldn't do it. That she loved me but wasn't in love with me. That she felt like we were playing roles in a life that looked perfect on paper, but felt hollow inside." "Ethan, I'm so sorry," Maya breathed, squeezing his hand. "Don't be. She was right." He smiled, but there was old pain in his eyes. "We looked perfect together. Same social circles, compatible careers, everyone said we were ideal for each other. But we didn't have this." "This," Maya whispered, "this connection. This feeling like I could talk to you for hours and never run out of things to say. Like your thoughts matter more than my own comfort. Like seeing you smile is worth more than 1,000 perfect dates with someone I'm supposed to want. Ethan's grip on her hand tightened. I've been going through the motions for the past year. Dating appropriate women, having pleasant conversations, checking boxes. And then you fell into my arms in the rain. And I remembered what it feels like to actually want something. To want someone. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. I've been alone for 3 years. Too busy building my business, too scared of getting hurt, too convinced I didn't have room in my life for anything but work. I told myself I was fine. That being independent meant being alone. She took a shaky breath. But last night, talking with you, I realized how lonely I've been. How much I've been missing by playing it safe. So where does that leave us? Ethan asked, though his eyes suggested he already knew the answer. Terrified, Maya said with a watery laugh, but maybe brave enough to see where this goes. Ethan stood, pulling her gently to her feet. Dance with me. There was no dance floor, but he didn't seem to care. He led her to a small, clear space near their table, pulling her close as the soft jazz continued in the background. They swayed together, her head resting against his chest, his arms wrapped securely around her. I caught you once, Ethan murmured against her hair. But I think I'm the one falling now. Maya pulled back just enough to look up at him. Then I'll catch you. That's how this works, right? We take turns? His smile was tender and full of promise. I think we catch each other. Over and over again. The kiss later, after dinner, they walked through the city streets. The rain had stayed away, leaving everything washed clean and sparkling under the streetlights. Maya's hand was warm in Ethan's, their fingers interlaced comfortably. They found themselves back at the coffee shop where they had spent the previous evening. It was closed now, the windows dark, but they stood under the awning anyway. This is where it really started, Maya said softly. Where we moved from strangers to something more. No, Ethan corrected gently, turning her to face him. It started the moment I saw you falling. The moment I ran toward you instead of away. The moment I chose to reach for you. He cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones with reverent gentleness. Maya's breath caught as she read the question in his eyes, the careful hope mixed with desire. Yes, she whispered, answering the unspoken question. Ethan kissed her softly at first, a gentle exploration that made her heart flutter. But when Maya's arms wrapped around his neck and she pressed closer, the kiss deepened. It tasted like wine and promise, like rain and new beginnings. His hands slid into her hair, and she made a small sound of pleasure that made him pull her tighter against him. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Ethan rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed. I've been wanting to do that since the moment I caught you. Why did you wait so long? Maya teased breathlessly. Because some things are worth savoring, worth building toward properly. He opened his eyes, and the emotion in them made her knees weak. Because I wanted you to know this isn't just physical attraction. This is real, Maya. This matters. It matters to me, too, she admitted. It scares me how much it matters after just 2 days. Then we'll be scared together, Ethan said simply. But we'll also be brave together. Deal? Deal. They kissed again, softer this time, but no less meaningful. Around them, the city continued its endless motion, but in their little bubble under the coffee shop awning, time seemed to slow. 2 people who had been strangers 48 hours ago were now writing the opening chapters of something that felt destined. New beginnings over the next weeks, Maya and Ethan fell into an easy rhythm. They met for coffee before work, texted throughout the day, and spent evenings exploring the city together or cooking dinner in his apartment. Maya learned that Ethan was terrible at cooking but excellent at cleaning up. He discovered that she sang off-key in the shower and could quote entire movies from memory. They introduced each other to their friends, who universally approved. Rachel teased Maya mercilessly about her knight in soggy armor, while Ethan's best friend Marcus declared Maya was far too good for him, but he'd better not mess it up. The campaign Maya had won went brilliantly, leading to more clients and opportunities for her firm. Ethan finished his residential project and began work on a new library downtown. Their lives wove together naturally, complementing rather than competing. 3 months after that rainy night, they returned to the spot where they had met. It had been Maya's idea, and Ethan had immediately understood why. They needed to acknowledge how far they had come, how much had changed since that moment of falling and catching. They stood on the same sidewalk, now dry under clear skies. Maya looked up at Ethan with a smile that made his heart ache with happiness. "Thank you for catching me," she said softly. "Thank you for falling," Ethan replied, pulling her close. "Thank you for taking a chance on a stranger in the rain, for being brave enough to let this happen." "We were both brave," Maya corrected. "We both chose to reach for something instead of playing it safe." Ethan kissed her there on the sidewalk, not caring about the pedestrians flowing around them or the curious glances. All that mattered was this woman in his arms, this incredible gift that had literally fallen into his life. When they pulled apart, Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's eyes widened. "It's not what you think," he said quickly, though his smile suggested it was something just as significant. "Open it." Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny umbrella. "For the next rainy day," Ethan explained, fastening it around her wrist. "A reminder that even when life gets stormy, we'll face it together. No more slipping alone." Maya's eyes filled with happy tears. "I love it. I love—" She paused, then gathered her courage. "I love you, Ethan. I love you too, Maya," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "From the moment I caught you, I've been yours." They walked hand in hand into the Seattle evening, two people who had found each other in the most unexpected way. The rain would come again, as it always did in Seattle. But now they would face it together, taking turns catching each other, being brave enough to fall because they knew someone would always be there to reach back. Sometimes love arrives with thunder and lightning, dramatic and undeniable. But sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of a stranger reaching out in the rain, choosing to catch you when you fall, and then choosing to stay long after the storm has passed.